Well, here I am, Follocks, doing my usual, I almost missed it thing for Memphis Wrestling. Memphis Wrestling. Thank you very much. And, a bit of Elvis type stuff there. Only a bit, and not very good, but there you go. And this week, of course, because it was last Sunday, it's the Memphis Spooktacular. What's that I just did? It's not really a kind of... Sounds like Jethro Tull. Weird. Anyway, it's bound to have Danhausen in it. And I really like Memphis Wrestling. Let me first say that. So you know what's coming, don't you? By the way, new glasses, what do you think? I mean, I've got varifocals again, and my eyes have got a bit stronger, so I feel a bit sick trying to sort them out. They're lighter than my other pair. Area. And I've not curled the tash yet either, but I think it looks all right. Anyway, trying to get the sweep of the hair going. It's my new kind of hairstyle. Back to the Spooktacular, which is a bit of a mess. Now, I think probably the decision Dustin doesn't do it. He usually does dress up on Halloween, does he not? Maybe just when Maria's there, but Dustin isn't dressed up. But Pete Pranica is. He's dressed up as the dude from The Big Lebowski, you know. And doing the voice as well, but very quietly. He ditches that halfway through because we can't really hear him that well. Yeah, so there's that. But then there's Terence Ward, whose work I happen to really like, but he's made the decision and been allowed to run with it to... because he's kind of toying with the idea of being a heel, which I quite like. He's come as David Knight. Now, David Knight's one of the referees, and of course they wear blue shirts in Memphis, but he's got the black and white ref shirt, and he's also wearing dark glasses because the gag is that David Knight doesn't see things in the wrestling that he should, so that he has a blindness issue or a sight issue. It's not something that I'm generally going to endorse. I mean, Terence plays it in that we start with him looking at the wall rather than looking at us. So he plays it and he tries that again later. So he does play it, he does try it. He's got the white stick as well. It's not something I would endorse, to be honest. But it's a decision, isn't it? And I think the less said about that, should I say, the better. Anyway, let's move on to the tag team casket match. It's a bit odd because we don't quite know the rules here. It's the O'Neills, who are big dudes, both of them. Both Stephen and Devon are big dudes, and then they're facing a main event Bradley and Big Nasty Phil. Big Nasty Phil. Phil's a big dude. Bradley's not so big. You've got a casket there, and halfway through, I think it's Pete, or it might be Terence, who says, well, what happens? How are we going to fit them both in the casket? Now, I might have missed the rules where it says only one person needs to go in the casket, and then that's your tag team. That's the tag team, that's the tag team losing the match. I couldn't get the words tag team out there, which is surprising considering I watch so much wrestling. However, they don't really explain that, so I was thinking, how are you going to get both of them in there? Well, they don't. The O'Neills are dressed apparently as the Dudleys. Well, they've got some kind of tie-dyed shirts on, but it doesn't look like Dudley-type shirts. Anyway, there's a back elbow from Phil. There's Stephen O'Neill gets a back suplex, which is nice, because, Phil's a big dude. And then Devon slams Phil. He picks him up and slams him. He is a bigger dude slightly than Phil, who's lost some weight recently. Then they do the what up? I mean, Dustin tells us about that. And there's a diving headbutt to Phil's nether regions. Both the twig and the berries probably got contact there. Ooh. And there is a 3D then, which I like seeing. It's kind of like a big rig, isn't it? It is, isn't it, from AEW. And they tell him to get the casket. Not get the tables, get the casket, which I like. Thought that was lovely. Then Brad's put in the casket and a kitty's get a tasket. Someone got the casket. And the O'Neills win. So Phil didn't need to go in the casket. It might have been good to have told us about that. Then we get a trick or treat match. I'm not quite sure what I think it seems to me as though it's just been called this, and there's nothing really. It's not a mixed tag, not a mixed gender tag, but you've got Macari Candy, who runs out of candy very early when she's handing it out to the audience. Good that, therefore, AJ Webb is there with her because he's got a big load of candy and she takes some of his, versus Nixie XS and C-Rex. And I thought C-Rex might have gone after handing the title to Nixie XS. No one has said anything about, in the top brass has said, well, last week Nixie XS said that she was the champion and we want to put out a statement and say she's not. It's actually C-Rex. She's carrying the belt. No one said a word. Something should be done, shouldn't it? Anyway, we've got C-Rex taking candy from Macari Candy early on, seemingly enjoying it. I thought she might spit it back at her, but then she just grabs her by the hair, pulls her straight down to the mat, which is brilliant, actually. Nasty Michinoku driver from C-Rex. Then the leg drop. J-Web didn't get in. Neither did Nixie XS. C-Rex looks, unbeatable. And she then drops her leg drop on J-Web. And there's no trick or treat. Well, there was some treats, I suppose, for the candy, but where's the stip? Why is it called a trick or treat match? I don't quite understand. It's just those little things that need to be looked at, to be honest. Right, Brother Bruce and Morrow are facing the Twins of Salem. Good to have the Twins of Salem, although my understanding is they won't be around in Memphis for a while, which would be a shame. Maybe that's wrong, maybe I'm wrong, but it looks that way on social media, I think. And then we've got, because it's good to have them with, it's apparently an absolution match. It's not explained what that means. It's part of a righteous path type thing, isn't it? They've got weapons around the ring, and although Brother Bruce and Morrow grab both a chain for Brother Bruce and a trash can lid for Morrow, they should have them taken off them, and all four are in the ring at the same time, by the way, and then huge trash can shots from Jackson Crowley, and then Bruce has got the chain pulled round his mouth. It looks like the Twins of Salem are on top, and he literally on the top buckle. Out comes Sister Asa, or as my notes say here, Sister ASAP, because she does come out ASAP actually, and smack him with a kendo stick, which is of course the absolution stick. So that's what, but it's not been explained to us really, and then we get their finishing manoeuvre, the Righteous Path, which is a Morrow Death Valley driver as Bruce hits a shoulder block. It's rather good, actually. But I didn't understand why it was an absolution match. It might just need looking at. This match also needs looking at because it's Aaron Roberts versus Emeritus, or Emeritus, if you like. He's never been in Memphis before. He's got a mask on. He's come from a different territory, apparently. I don't really know if he's the number one contender for this belt. I think it is for the belt. We know he's not going to win. But, however, a basement kick puts Roberts down. He's not very happy about that. Throws him into the buckle. Big Beal. Massive Gunshow lariat, because, of course, he's really tweaking Gunshow's nose by saying, look at this, a Gunshow lariat. Didn't do it that way, of course. That would impinge on him actually hitting the lariat if he was doing that. But he's kind of saying, you're my number one contender. And look, I could do this as well. It was okay, but who's Emeritus? Or Emeritus? Who is it? Barnabus is back. He's now the ringmaster of Mayhem. The strange thing is that he announces the Monsters Brawl, or Monster Brawl. And after announcing it, I don't know if he gets confused, but he's always been a bad guy. And he leaves via the good guy locker room entrance. Is he going to come back and be a good guy? I'd be interested in that, because I've got quite a lot of bad guys now, haven't we, in Memphis? That'd be interesting. Anyway, there's also interesting, some good stuff in this. Lord Gaston's out first with Ali X. They don't bother to get in the ring, because the first pin wins this. It's not an over-the-top rope battle royal, although Gaston will put someone out later on when he finally gets into the Monster Brawl and act as though he's won the whole thing. Right, more of that in a minute. But we've got the Chicken and Peter. I don't know who these are, but apparently they've had a long-term brawl, so they're attacking each other. They get in early. There's an atomic drop from the Chicken, and then they leave. They will come back later on, folks, and brawl through the crowd, from the merchandise area. Yeah, we've got 7 crews out first. It's nice to see these new wrestlers. Gaston's watching on. Kale is in a scream mask, and then they fight each other. And at one point, they both drop kick each other. It looks rather good. So they're both down. Sue Young then arrives, wants to mist Gaston, who ducks, and Ali takes it. And then there's a mandible claw to Gaston, which he really sells. It happens for ages. It's really well done. We've got Super Grizz, the Memphis Grizzlies mascot, who looks massively bulked up. He's been working out, that Grizz. And there's someone in there pretending to be Ric Flair. I don't know who that is. I mean, they're telling us it's Ric Flair. I don't know who that is. He's got a blonde wig and a rather nice pink robe. I didn't see him announced because there was a commercial, but I don't know. It's a little bit too far-fetched in my mind, actually. Grizz gives him a diamond cutter, so he's out, then dives on everybody from the top, which is impressive. Then Jason's in, the Mississippi Maniac. I don't know if he's a wrestler from other areas. He might be. He's got the hockey mask, and all that. They are all kind of cowering and looking at him, which brings out Danhausen. Nothing particularly happens when he comes out. That'll happen in a little while. It doesn't do too much, Danhausen. Erica Torres comes out. Of course, last week she fought DDT, and rather, put up a good showing against her, I thought. That brings DDT out, smacks her around a bit. That's when Pete and the Chicken arrive again from the lobby. I don't know. I just don't know. And at one, they're in the corner, and while they're fighting, Torres and DDT just stand there, watching them. They leave and fight to the back, and then Torres and Diana Taylor start fighting again. It's a bit weird. Gunshow is then out. He's going to win the whole thing. He gets a delayed vertical suplex to Kale. Flair is thrown out. That's when he decides not to bother, I think. Cruz is then thrown out. There's a Death Valley driver, and Danhausen has his teeth. He's got a little thing of teeth. He shoves them into the mouth of DJ Blade. You don't need to do that. He's got enough teeth. It's a dentist's dream, but he won't fit properly. He'll be a bit toothy, won't he? Anyway, Gaston's finally in, celebrates by putting Blade over the top, walks straight into a Gunshow lariat, and yes, the Gunshow wins. It was all right. It was a bit of fun, and it's separate from all the other shows that they do. These kind of shows with the great City Rumble and Christmas and all that. Yeah, it's different. However, having what's it called, Simon in there, Psycho Simon might have been good. But anyway, it was all right. I didn't think it was any great shakes. I could have known with knowing what the stips were and why, and I could have done with a bit more wrestling, to be honest, which is a good thing. Next week, I'm sure we'll be back to its brilliant best, but as it usually is. It was a bit of a blip this week, but I actually didn't enjoy it that much. A little bit, but not much. Maybe I'm just all spooked out. Ta-ta.